Hello friends, Tanya here with a video for the Spellbinders Glimmer of the Month kit. This one's called the Mini Slimline Glimmer Nested Dots. Say that 3 times fast. And I am also going to be using the Sending Floral Wishes Clear Stamp of the Month. Now if you watch my longer video featuring the Clear Stamp of the Month, this part is included in that, but I thought you might want to see how I created this beautiful background. There is a mixture of wild honey and abandoned coral, and that was actually like the 2nd generation brayering onto this gel press. And I am going to take this big floral image from the Clear Stamp of the Month kit, and I'm going to stamp it repeatedly using this multicolor stamping technique. I dabbed the inks onto the stamp and then used the brayer to smooth them out, and I'm stamping them down onto this piece of cardstock. It is a piece of 80-pound smooth white cardstock, and it is working beautifully with this stamp. Any white, good quality white cardstock will work for this. And this is a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock. I see one little hole in this pattern that I want to fill, and conveniently there is a small single flower in this stamp set that I can use to fill that hole using the same technique. I do love this gel press for using my clear stamps on because it does enable you to get a perfect impression every time. It's the right combination of smooth or of soft and firm together. Here is the Glimmer of the Month kit, and it is nested dots, glimmer dots. If you're familiar with the Essentials line of glimmer and dies through Spellbinders, this will look familiar. The Essentials ovals, circles, squares, and rectangles have the same pattern, and this is a perfect complement to that. This coordinates with mini slimlines. I tend to make my mini slimlines 3 by 6, but this would even work with up to a 3.5 by 6.25, I think it is. And there is my panel. I did take that paper and create 2 different cards with it. The other one's featured in the other video. Here I took a sentiment die from one of the past Glimmer of the Month kits, and I'm going to use that to die cut these sentiments that I'm heat embossing with some, I believe it's called brass embossing powder. We'll see that in just a minute. I'm using my Misty to stamp this a couple of times with VersaMark ink on a piece of white cardstock from my scrap bin. And I'm going to heat emboss that. This matches the, I think it's either copper or rose gold. It might be called rose gold. I think that's the foil that came in the kit this month. It's been a few weeks since I created this project, so I don't remember exactly which one I used. I am using some of the, I believe it's called Best Ever tape from Spellbinders. It is amazing. It does not tear my paper, and it has a good strong hold. So it's a little stronger than washi, but it releases a little better than washi does also when you're doing your die cutting, which would be why it's the best ever. So I've taken my 3 by 6 inch card base, which is actually 6 by 6 scored at 3 inches to create a folded 3 by 6 card. And I'm going to do a little stamping on the inside of that also in the same technique. And this is easy to do, and the brayer just can put a little more ink on if you don't get a perfect impression the first time without making your image too dark. When I am stamping on the inside of my cards, I don't like it to be really dark. I want the writing that you put on the inside to be the most visible part of the decoration on the inside. I suppose that wouldn't be the decoration, that would be the message. Now I did stamp this in VersaFine Onyx Black. That is pretty bold, but that's okay. And I am just going to adhere this panel to the front of the card with a little bit of coaster blank on the back for some dimension, and you can add dimension in whatever way you would like. and we'll just center the sentiment right in the middle. And I'm just making sure I've got the fold on the correct side before I push down and make that sentiment be firmly placed where it's at, because it's not going to move. And then I realized I put my inside sentiment in the wrong orientation. But we're just going to go with it, because what am I going to do now? Handmade, not Hallmark. Now we are going to do a second card. We are also doing a slimline this time. This is a 2 3/4 by 5 3/4 inch panel that I am going to put several of these frames, these dotted circle frames on. And I also am using a piece of cardstock that I used my gel press on and stamped on, but in a slightly different technique. You can see how I did that in a different video that I will have linked at the end of this video. I'm using the hinge method, and again using, I'm pretty sure that's the rose gold foil that came with the kit this month. But I need a little wider hinge. If your hinge is too narrow, it will not line back up perfectly when you flip it back down. You can either have a 2 or 3 point hinge, or you can make it a wide single point hinge. Now I'm going to carefully lift this up off of my work surface, and I'm going to put this on my preheated Glimmer hot foil platform. I am actually going to pop that back onto the platform and set the timer, and then I run it through the die cut machine when the timer is elapsed. This is what it looks like after it's done. I just love that concentric rectangles of dots. We're going to use a different sentiment on this one. We're going to again stamp it with VersaMark ink, and I did treat that paper with a little bit of anti-static powder tool. Mine happens to be some cornstarch in an old sock. That's what works for me. I have cornstarch and socks in my house, as I imagine you do also. I'm just going to heat set that quickly, and I do love the versatility of the sentiments in this stamp set, and they do have a perfect width for embossing. I also pulled out another past kit. This was I believe it was Holiday Sentiments, to do the banner for this one. And I'm measuring the opening there. It's just about 4 inches. And now I'm going to center this on the banner die so that when I put it in the center of the card, it's going to be perfectly matted. And I want this just under 4 inches. So we're going to do a little partial die cutting here. And I taped that onto the cardstock in a way that reminds me where I want to make sure I'm not cutting. So I'm just going to put the plate up to that piece of tape, and it's holding it in there perfectly. If you do just one piece of tape, it's going to wiggle and it's going to cause you problems. So I make sure that the die edges are in the groove from the previous cutting, and I'm just going to slide that until it's centered and tape it again and do one more pass through my die cut machine. Now I'm using my tiny one because it's what will fit under my camera, but this will work just as well on your regular size die cutting machine. And there you go. This time I make sure to make my sentiment in the correct orientation on the inside of the card. And I've also stamped one of the single flowers from the stamp set in VersaMark and embossed that also in the brass embossing powder. And then fussy cut that out. And I'm using the Gold Glitz Delicata ink to get my sentiment on the inside. I decided I didn't want black this time because there isn't black anywhere else on this card. Just tack that down, and because the Delicata ink might still be a little wet, I did put a piece of copy paper inside the card while I finished assembling it so it wouldn't transfer the ink to the other side of the card. I'm using a heavy block to hold a little pressure on that card front while I have it glued, and then I just center that sentiment right in the middle, and it did turn out perfect. I can't believe how well that worked. Once in a while, it does pay to pull out your ruler. Here are some close-up photos of the cards I created today. And as you can see, I did add some of the color essential gems. They will be listed in the description box below, as well as all of the supplies that I've used today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please tell me which of these kits you are most interested in this month. And if you haven't subscribed, now would be a good time. Until next time, bye-bye.